What's going on, guys, and welcome back to Poll Chat. Liberal SJWs wander around the streets looking for some beef to catch, but since they got no basis for their theories, they end up getting owned very badly. If you wish to see a compilation of liberal SJWs getting owned using facts, then here's your list. Number 5, reaction to John Cleese's tweet. John Cleese broke the internet some time ago with his infamously known tweet where he wrote about how London had become less English. Though John Cleese didn't get the chance to defend himself over here, he still had someone looking after him. His name was Konstantin Kisin, and you all would probably remember him as a comedian.
This has anything to do with race. Look at the England football teams full of black players. No one would question their Englishness, right? They're English. It's not about race. What he's talking about, I think, is that look at London. 42% of people who live in London are, like me, foreign born, right? So there's a very significant immigrant population in London. Obviously, if you have half of a city, essentially, that are people who are first-generation immigrants, that is going to make it less of the local culture. It's just a fact of life, isn't it?
No, the fact of that is, and you're absolutely right, but the fact of that is...
It's just a fact of life, isn't it?
No, the fact of that is, and you're absolutely...
Number 4, Ben Shapiro on Boy Scouts and transgenders. A lot of members of the LGBTQ+ community had been talking about how transgenders should be included in the Boy Scouts. Now, before people start talking about how transgenders should be treated fairly, as Ben Shapiro said, no one has got an issue with their humanity. It's just the idea that's inside their head which makes their statements unrealistic.
I'm saying that the Boy Scouts have a standard. You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be a boy to be a Boy Scout. In the name Boy Scouts.
Number 3, audience member shuts down SJW on obesity. Now, this audience member thought she could start talking about obesity and no one would correct her, but lo and behold, she was wrong. SJWs start getting embarrassed no matter what topic they choose or no matter what platform they opt for. This time, an obese lady went on asking a much slimmer woman who had reduced her weight significantly. The obese woman wanted the slimmer woman to say that the change in her size meant nothing to her, but as soon as the slimmer woman started talking, the SJW got shut down. The slimmer woman spoke about all the reasons why it was medically and mentally better for her not to remain obese, and the SJW had no proper response to give.
A bigger body in
but
a way
we're
that
all
I'm happy
talking
with.
about health tonight. I mean, the whole show is about weight and health.
No,
so
what
it's
we've
not
been
an
talking about
unreasonable.
is surgery, and we haven't actually talked about the possibility that you can actually live in your life.
No, but we
in
have.
This body.
We have talked about that. But all I'm saying is that a question to anyone about what they eat in the context of this program, anyone in this room, is perfectly reasonable, I think.
Well,
But it's interesting that they've only been directed at fat people.
No. It's not about being fat or not being fat. It's about what everybody eats. Well, it's about what everybody eats and what health is. What health.
You're conflating that our
No, I'm asking. No. I'm not conflating anything. I'm saying I think it's perfectly reasonable in the context of a discussion where you've got research that suggests that people who are overweight and people who are obese can be more prone to particular health problems. I think it's quite reasonable in that context when we're talking about diet, we're talking about losing weight, gaining weight.
Number 2, Ben Shapiro on white privilege. So this woman stood up on Ben Shapiro's campus visit to her college and started asking Shapiro a question. She wasn't out of line or anything, she was basically an SJW. She started talking about how nothing similar to the notion of white privilege exists, but as soon as she said that, Ben Shapiro was ready with an answer.
Where you debunk white privilege, you talk about how white privilege is a made-up term by privileged minorities. So I was wondering if you can elaborate on some of the privileges that you think minority groups have.
Okay, so in privileges in law, so when I say privilege, I'm actually going to talk about legal standing. Okay, so affirmative action is a privilege. Affirmative action is a privilege. Subprime mortgage is designed to appeal to minority recipients without proper qualifications. That is a privilege. Now, those are a couple examples of privilege. Privilege would also be the police being told that they can't police in communities the same way they would in other communities because they don't understand the problems of minority communities. That's a privilege. And by the way, these privileges are not helpful, but these are, as an overall matter, but it is certainly it's very difficult for me to see how it's not a privilege to get a lower score on the SAT than the Asian guy who's living in exactly the same circumstance. He gets penalized 50 points, you get 230 points on the SATs. That is definitionally a privilege. So there's one. Do you disagree?
Yeah, but I don't want to take up everyone's time, so I'm just gonna let.
It's quite impossible for Ben to be out of an answer, and the same was the case over here. He straightly gave an example of how an Asian kid is said to be at an advantage while giving a SAT-MAT test. He pointed out that this form of advantage was also a privilege, but no one considered it as a negative thing. The SJW literally walked out of the room after she got that response because she had nothing to say as a rebuttal. Number 1, Milo Yiannopoulos owns SJW on police brutality. There are some people who should be known as walking nightmares for SJWs. Ben Shapiro, as we said earlier, is one of them, but he is not alone in this fight. Milo Yiannopoulos stands right in his line, and whenever the left tries to lean in and take control, these guys swiftly push them away. Similarly, when Milo was supposed to talk about police brutality to shut an SJW propaganda down, he didn't simply go up to the stage and started talking diplomatic politics.
2012 numbers, it would take 40 years worth of blacks killed by police to equal the total number of blacks murdered by other blacks in a single year. Less than 400 people a year are killed by cops. 61% of them are white men. 32% are black males. Black men are not killed out of proportion when you consider they're much more likely to interact with police. People are killed by police about as often as they're struck by lightning, but I don't see many protests about storms. Black males are 58% of those killed legally by private citizens in self-defense. And you think, aha, we've got you on something. Except 75% of them were killed by other blacks. FBI statistics on murder lay bare the real threat to black lives in America, and that is other blacks. Black men are about 6.5% of the US population, but they commit 52% of all murders. That has dipped to about 40% in recent years. Black men overwhelmingly murder other black people, and white people overwhelmingly murder other white people. So just like abuse and harassment on the internet, this isn't really a racial issue like that isn't really a gendered issue.
The best part about this entire event was how Milo was all dressed up in a police uniform themed shirt. He clearly knows how to make a fashion statement using the clothing he gets to wear at his events. It clearly is a sight to see when an SJW gets shut down as they have no argument against solid facts. That about wraps up this video, which we hope you guys found enjoyable. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, hit that bell icon, and also subscribe to our channel if you haven't already to help us grow and provide you with more juicy content from our channel in the future. And with that, I'll be catching you guys later in another video. Bye now.